Welcome back to Movies TV Man, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Man, and welcome to Thursday's edition of the DCEU Daily. I am Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Yes, this is Thursday's edition of the DCEU Daily, and yes, you're right. The Blue Beetle costume has been revealed. Would you like to take a look at it? It might get me in trouble, but we'll do it anyway, right? Look at this. Now, you can't see it very well. Now, personally, I think this has been leaked purposely. I told you they would try something or a bunch of things to distract us again away from the Ezra Miller controversy. So that, my friends, is the Blue Beetle movie costume. And it looks pretty rad, right? It looks amazing. So, it's obviously blue. It looks very interesting. It has different aspects to the costume as well. It seems very, very comic book accurate, and I can't wait to see this movie. I, for one, hope this movie has nothing to do with the DCEU Daily. But I ask again, considering the DCEU has such low consumer confidence, that we've got the Ezra Miller situation, that we may not be able to see this Flash movie because of the Ezra Miller situation, how can Blue Beetle have anything to do with anything in the DCEU? So I actually hope that Blue Beetle, the Aqualad, that Wonder Twins have nothing to do with the DCEU, but the costume looks amazing. 80s Rewind the Times 90s. Good morning, Mick. I was just catching up on your videos. So excited for Blue Beetle, and here's the costume. Here's the costume, my friend, just in case you missed it before you came in. So very, very exciting. Again, I hope it has nothing to do with the DCEU, and this is part of a brand new universe. This is what they should be doing. So we go to our next update for you, and it's about the Batman and Robert Pattinson. There's a lot of Batman quotient stuff today, and lots of other different things I'll be updating you on. 80s Rewind the Times 90s. I love it. So do I. Great costume, isn't it? Why Robert Pattinson's Batman Doesn't Disguise His Voice by Christian Hodge of Screen Rant. The Batman director Matt Reeves has recently revealed why Batman does not attempt to disguise his voice, as he does in other interpretations. The Batman director Matt Reeves reveals why Batman does not attempt to disguise his voice in the new film. The Batman is the latest iteration of the Caped Crusader to hit the big screen, and the first to take place outside of the ongoing DCEU, ongoing, my ass. You mean outgoing? Since Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy ended back in 2012, the film sees Batman as portrayed by Robert Pattinson, now in his second year of crime fighting, as he attempts to track down a new and mysterious serial killer known as the Riddler, Paul Dano. The Batman offers a fresh new take on the world of Gotham City. And since its release, the movie has seen great acclaim from both fans and critics, with some even claiming that it may be the best Batman film to date. Back when the film was first announced, some Batman fans were skeptical about a new reboot of the character so soon after the DCEU revealed their version of the Caped Crusader. Some fans were particularly skeptical given the casting of Pattinson in the titular role, given that he was mostly known at the time for his stint as Edward in the Twilight Saga. You mean even though he's done multiple indie movies? And why would you criticize him for Twilight? He was an actor on the film. He did a great job. What the frick is your problem? Despite the character having changed somewhat from what may be expected from him, one noticeable change is the lack of voice alteration between Bruce Wayne and Batman. An attempt to mask Bruce's true voice while he's in the costume is something that has been a big part of the character since The Dark Knight, and was carried on throughout the DCEU. However, this trait is noticeably absent from the Batman. If you go back to Batman 89, Keaton disguises his voice naturally as Batman, right? It's not got a voice change or anything. It's actually a really good idea. Bale took that concept too far, and I think Pattinson slightly alters his voice, but not too much. During the director's commentary on the Batman, as reported by The Wrap, Reeves has revealed why the voice was made to have Pattinson use his own voice when portraying Batman. It turns out the decision came out of the fact that Batman is more of a detective story than a typical superhero conflict. According to Reeves, he quickly realized that this meant that the Batman will have a lot of dialogue scenes In fact, the character of Bruce Wayne hardly appears comparatively to Batman in this film, which meant that it would be Batman who would have to carry a lot of the dialogue during the emotional turning points of the film. For Reeves, he felt that if Batman was using the classic growling voice, audiences would be able to wouldn't be able to connect with him emotionally. See his full quote below. I knew I didn't want to do a Batman that had been done previously, that had the growl that we'd seen, because I knew that in this version, if you're going to do a detective story, Batman is going to have a lot of dialogue scenes, which when you actually look at all the movies, Bruce may have a lot of long dialogue scenes, but Batman's dialogue scenes, he has dialogue, but it's control. This, by literally the necessity of solving this crime, was going to require him to have the long dialogue scenes in that suit, and some of them are very emotional. If he was growling, we wouldn't be able to connect to him emotionally. So there was a real exploration to figure out how to make that work. And I think they did make it work, and it was the right decision. This challenge is somewhat unique to the Batman, as previous films have played more of the emotional art on Bruce Wayne rather than Batman, correct again, which left the Caped Crusader only rare moments of really heavy dialogue. With this switch, even Pattinson has admitted that trying to growl his way through the dialogue-heavy scenes wound up being too hard on his voice. Ultimately, the choice makes a lot of sense, given that Batman's version of Bruce Wayne is reclusive, so hardly anyone knows what his voice sounds like anyway. Exactly. In the end, it seems that Reeves' choice was for the best. He's indeed right that the Batman has to carry the emotional weight of the story, and in the end, Pattinson was able to do this very well. After nearly a 3-hour movie with very dark themes, the Batman is able to deliver an ending that sparks true hope in the audience. Something I'll repeatedly say, and I'll say again, should have been in Man of Steel. This certainly would have been hard if viewers had to decipher dialogue for a voice akin to Christian Bale's in The Dark Knight. As it stands, voice or no voice, Pattinson's version of the Batman has worked his way into audiences' hearts, and it certainly has. So let's talk about this for a little while. Let me just queue up my next article as we're live. It's not the same as being pre-recorded, but we'll do it. Right. What Matt Reeves does in the Batman, he makes the Batman the character, and he makes Bruce Wayne the alter ego, right? Because everyone has a different perception about this, whether it's Batman or Superman. Some people think Superman's the character and Clark's the alter ego, and some people think it's the other way around. I actually like the idea of having more Batman than Bruce Wayne. I mean, Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins is an interesting character. You get to delve into his humanity and how he thinks and his mentality in his life, and it's great. But ultimately, Batman is a more interesting persona. He's a man behind a costume. He's mysterious. But in this film, because of the eye acting being so good, because of the way Reeves frames the character, it's a better take. I like the idea of Batman being the main character and Bruce Wayne being the alter ego. In terms of not disguising the voice to the depths of depravity that Christian Bale did, I think it was definitely a great idea by Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson. DC's Constantine TV show reportedly eyeing Soap dceu lead role. HBO Max's Constantine show may have found its lead hero as Soap dceu, I can't pronounce his name, I'm sorry mate, is reportedly being eyed for the J.J. Abrams produced DC series by Andy, whose surname I can never pronounce. So if you can't pronounce something, don't bother trying, although I tried with the actors. The Constantine reboot may have its lead as Soap dceu is reportedly being eyed for the lead role in the HBO Max drama. For the last couple of years, John Constantine has been an active player in the DC live-action world through Matt Ryan, the best live-action Constantine, by the way. After his NBC series got cancelled for no good reason, after only one season, Matt Ryan's iteration of the character became a regular player in Arrowverse, primarily on Legends of Tomorrow. Ryan has also gone on to voice Constantine in multiple DC animated projects over the years. However, the Hellblazer is now being prepared for a new adventure by filmmaker J.J. Abrams, who is currently developing a Justice League Dark franchise. Not only is a TV show being worked on for the Supernatural team, but various characters are getting their own films and series that will be part of the same universe. One of the properties is a Constantine reboot from the writer. Guy Bolton with Abrams is an executive producer. While there hasn't been a lot of movement on the project or nothing that Abrams is allegedly working on since the initial announcement, Constantine is looking to start production this year under the working title Chimney. Let's see if that actually happens. But in order to get Constantine into the swing of things, the show needs to find the next Hellblazer. And it looks like HBO Max may have found their lead. According to the new report from the Illuminati, HBO Max is eyeing British-Nigerian actor Soap Dirisu for the lead role. The 31-year-old actor's resume includes the TV shows Gangs of London, Humans, and The Halcyon, and movies such as The Huntsman, Winter's War, Silent Night, and the upcoming Mr. Malcolm's List. Dirisu has also taken his acting to the stage in One Night in Miami and several other theatre productions. It's worth noting that if this report turns out to be accurate, Dirisu being considered doesn't mean he has signed on for Constantine yet. In many cases, actors who become candidates for various roles can go either way. Sometimes they end up officially being cast, while in other scenarios, they get considered before ultimately having a different star be booked. Dirisu's casting report comes shortly after character breakdowns emerge for supporting players on Constantine. If Dirisu lands the gig, he would then likely be seen in Justice League Dark and potentially in other projects related to the new franchise. This is true and exciting. With Constantine eyeing a full production which would run into early 2023, fans will likely find out sooner rather than later if Dirisu will headline the series. Aside from the Hellblazer reboot, Abrams is also executive producing Madame X, aka Madame Xandu series for HBO Max, with executive producer and writer Angela Robinson. Abrams' Bad Robot Productions is also working on a Zatanna film with Emerald Fennell writing the script. If Constantine gets rolling as planned, fans will ideally start to see progress on other announced Justice League Dark projects too. Now, I want this to happen because at the end of the day, right, we'll just cue up the article again, but yeah, at the end of the day, right, it's a great idea to create a whole Justice League Dark universe. Justice League Dark has a great complexity of characters in that team. Constantine is one of them, Zatanna is the other. So I'm very excited. They've got a great director to do Zatanna. It's exciting. I think this is good, and I hope that it happens. So now that they're leaking some stuff about the actor, who is an actor of color, so there's no misunderstanding, just like the Superman movie Abrams is producing, that initially was going to be a Superman of color. Who knows what's going on now? I'm happy to wait to see what happens. 80s Rewinder times 90s. I thought Patterson's voice was spoken very subtle, very low. I feel there was a difference between the two. I agree. 80s Rewinder times 90s. Yes, I agree. Batman should play out as the main character between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Villager, so excited for Zatanna. So am I, my friend. Let's hope it happens. You can't trust this studio. 80s Rewinder times 90s. That's the thing we hope. All we have is hope. How Catwoman pressure influenced Zoe Kravitz's the Batman performance. In a recently released art book for the Batman, actor Zoe Kravitz describes the pressure from the legacy of previous Catwoman actors by Brandon Lewis of Screen Rant. In the recently released art book for the Batman, Catwoman actor Zoe Kravitz describes the pressure she felt from the legacy of past actors who portrayed the classic character and how it influenced her performance. Kravitz stars as Selina Kyle in the latest Batman film, which centers on the titular hero as he attempts to solve a series of crimes perpetuated by the mysterious Riddler. Kyle finds herself mixed up in the case when Batman's Robert Pattinson investigation leads him to the crime boss Carmine Falcone, John Turturro, the target of Kyle's latest con. The Batman proved to be a huge hit at the box office. Did you hear that, propaganda merchants? The Batman was a huge hit at the box office and garnered near universal critical acclaim with praise for Kravitz's portrayal of Catwoman. She's amazing. Kravitz is the latest actor to play the anti-hero in live-action media. Following a long line of talented actors before her, the Adam West-led Batman in the 1960s saw Catwoman portrayed by these separate actors: Julie Newmar, who's great, and Eartha Kitt, who took the role in the popular show, and Lee Merriweather, who was also great. played Carl in the film adaptation of the series. Oh my gosh, she was so hot. The character didn't appear in live action again until 1992, this time with Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman in Tim Burton's Batman Returns. Halle Berry took her turn as Carl in the 2004 flop Catwoman, and Anne Hathaway donned the leather catsuit for the final film in Christopher Nolan's Batman film trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises. Cameron Bicanova, yes, my girl Cam, was given the role of young Selena Kyle in the television series Gotham. Absolutely loved it. What a performance. A show that followed James Gordon and the Gotham City Police Department before Batman took to the streets. In the new art book via comic book from Matt Reeves, the Batman actor Zoe Kravitz described the pressure she felt from the legacy of past actors who played Catwoman and how it influenced her performance. The actor explained that she was initially stunned and excited to hear the news that she got the role. But the gravity of it soon dawned on her when she thought back to all the past actors that she would have to live up to. Read what Kravitz said about how she felt below. When I got this part, I was floored, and then when the news came out, I too, this day, not even on my birthday, have never received so many phone calls and text messages. That was when it hit me. This isn't just big to me. This is just a big deal. For Kit, Michelle Pfeiffer, Halle Berry, everybody, it's an honor to be in that group of people. There were times when I really had to actually step away from that because I think the pressure for it to be iconic or to compare myself to those other incredible actresses, I think that's really dangerous. And I agree. As an actor myself, I think that's very dangerous, and she's a very intelligent woman. Although Kravitz felt apprehensive when she considered what the role meant to the legacy of Batman and to fans, she was encouraged by some of the Catwoman women before her. Anne Hathaway, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Halle Berry all thought Kravitz was an excellent choice, with Berry offering the actor some advice to make the character her own. You know what? I don't think I would be asking any advice about Catwoman from Halle Berry. Kravitz explained that she didn't want to focus on how the character looked, especially in regard to past versions, but instead dive into the character's psyche. Great choice. To create a character-driven version that was motivated by her initial struggles, adding, I didn't want to get trapped in trying to make something iconic or sexy. I really wanted it to be a story about a woman who survived the hell of her life and is trying to figure out what to do next, even though, I'm sorry to tell you this, Zoe, you were very sexy. Don't get upset, but you were very sexy in the film, but you also did do her character justice, as did Matt. So thank you. If Kravitz was concerned about the way past performance of the character, that pressure did not negatively affect her own portrayal, as she was widely praised for her role. Kravitz used what came before to breathe life into a brand new realization of the character. She lit up the screen with her nuanced depiction of a fiercely independent woman who had to fend for herself from an early age. If the Batman proved anything, is that Kravitz earned herself a place in the long line of iconic Catwoman performances, and I agree with most of that. That was awesome. So let's talk about that. So what messages we got here? 80s Rewind the Times 90s. Yes, I agree. Batman should play out as the main character between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Villager, so excited for Zatanna. I've already read that. 80s Rewind the Times 90s. That's the thing we hope. Or I've already read that. Villager, I've read that. Hot Takes Tuesdays. Where's the costume? I've already shown it, my friend. You're going to have to rewatch the beginning of the video. 80s Rewind the Times 90s. Susan Sarandon instead of Sharon Stone. No problem there. Trading one amazing actress with another. I'll take it. Yeah, I don't care about that either. It'll be interesting. It's a shame they've swapped out the original Ted Cole for the wife, but that's what Hollywood are doing today. How the Batman's ending differs from other Dark Knight movies. The Batman's Robert Pattinson has recently detailed how the new film flips the script on a classic Batman ending, giving Batman a new character arc by Christian Hodge of Screen Rant. The Batman star Robert Pattinson has recently detailed how the new film's ending flips the script on a classic Batman ending. The Batman is the newest interpretation of the iconic DC character, with Pattinson's version of the Caped Crusader being the first depiction of Batman to exist outside of the DCEU since Christian Bale took on the role in the Dark Knight trilogy. The film follows Batman in his second year of crime fighting as he cracks down a mysterious new serial killer known as the Riddler, Paul Dano. The Batman has certainly struck a chord with fans, and since its release, the film has seen acclaim from both audiences and critics alike, with some even claiming it may be the best Batman film to date. Before I carry on with this, I want to say something about Zoe Kravitz. Hot Takes Tuesday. DC trying to sound us news to distract from Ezra. They are still a dumb as F-U-C-K. I agree, but I'm going to have to delete that message, and I'm sorry about that. I do want to follow the rules. Yeah. So I just read an article about Zoe Kravitz beforehand, and I must say she was a lot. I didn't think she'd be as good as she would be. When you find out that she's Jason Momoa's stepdaughter or foster daughter or whatever, and you think, oh yeah, we know how you got the job. It's a typical thing. It's the way I react, because nepotism is kind of something that happens in Hollywood a lot. But not only was I impressed with her performance, but I was impressed with the direction Matt Reeves went with her character. Because it's not just Batman's story, it's her story too. We find out about her struggles, that she has a friend who, I mean, it probably is her girlfriend. They probably were lovers. I mean, not that that's really important. And, you know, when she gets murdered, it brings so many things back, and it opens up the mystery of her biological parents. We find out that Falcone is actually her father, and she wants to kill him. So it's absolutely sensational what they did with Catwoman, and I can't wait to see more of her in Matt Reeves' universe. Every new interpretation of the character and world of Batman has tried to do something new with the character. Tim Burton's world has steeped in his signature gothic tone, while director Joel Schumacher brought with him neon colours and a large amount of camp. Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy attempted to bring a heightened sense of realism to the world of Gotham, and for quite some time the Dark Knight was considered the gold standard for Batman films. Being the newest in a very long line of Batman interpretations, director Matt Reeves certainly strived to set the Batman apart from its predecessors, and he did that very successfully. Where are we? Have I lost my Dark Knight? Being newest in a very long time, Reeves certainly strived to set the Batman apart from its predecessors, and especially from the DCEU, and I don't blame him for that. The Batman finds a nice balance between Burton's gothic tones and Nolan's realism, and also flips many classic Batman tropes on their heads. It's important to say when this person talks about Batman tropes from the movies, not the comics. This is very accurate to the source material. But some people think Batman's source material is the movies, and that's the mistakes people make. In an interview from the Book of Art of Batman, as reported by Comic Book, Pattinson has detailed how he was particularly drawn to the ending of the film, as it reversed a very common Batman plot point. As many fans know, most Batman stories revolve around how Batman seems to be fighting a losing fight against crime in Gotham City. Pattinson has pointed out how most Batman stories end with the character believing that he's given hope to the city, which is not necessarily the case in the Batman. The Batman begins with Batman believing that there is no hope for Gotham. However, Pattinson has pointed out that by the end of the film, the city manages to inspire hope in Batman instead of the other way round. See his full quote below. At the beginning of the story, he doesn't think that the city is capable of healing itself, and it's just on a downward spiral. He's just fighting a hopeless battle, which will end in defeat. This is by Pattinson, by the way. I just always like the idea at the end of him allowing himself to hope a little bit. It's probably the most painful thing that he has to do. It's much more painful than anything he's had to experience, because if you've closed yourself down to feeling anything and all you want to do is just go out and fight, if he allows himself to think that there is a possibility of positive change, then you can get hurt again. Then you can feel the disappointment and failure of that as well, which I think he's trying to hide from as well. One of the first ideas I had about it was, I think a lot of the endings of Batman stories is that it ends with Batman believing that he's giving hope to the city. And he thinks the symbol of Batman and what he's done throughout the story will hopefully inspire the city to have a more hopeful outlook and create a brighter future. In this, I always imagine that he's so committed to darkness and nihilism that it's actually the city which opens up himself for a bit of hope. And I love that take. Pattinson is right, of course. Many fans were wondering before the release of The Batman how it was going to manage to set itself apart from the likes of The Dark Knight. And this is perhaps one of the most important examples. While The Dark Knight ends with Batman sacrificing his image as a hero for the greater good of the city that he believes in, The Batman gives audiences a conflicted character who is slowly convinced that Gotham is worth fighting for. After all, despite being repeatedly told that it's not, this is what's a very interesting route for director Reeves to take, especially given today's social climate. It's not about the social climate, by the way. It's not about commentary. It's about commentary about this character. Forget about the real world. Get over it. Ultimately, Reeves and his team were certainly able to deliver a new kind of Batman story, and perhaps most impressively, one that can give audiences a bit of hope beyond. If new Batman movies can still be good, the way Pattinson sees it, the Batman is about the power of people coming together, which is not something Batman always explores, despite perhaps trying to on a few occasions. Even after over a month, there are still new things to find in rewatches of the Batman, and that's very, very true. Despite this film being described by audiences and most critics as a very dark take, in fact, it's not that dark. Yes, Riddler is a dark character. He's a serial killer. I get it. And the Batman is conflicted. He's still damaged by witnessing the murder of his parents as a boy. But this film has one of the most hopeful endings in DC comic book history. And that's amazing. And I said this the other day. As I was watching it, I thought to myself, wow, this is how Man of Steel should have ended. We won't go into that again. So I love the hopeful finish. I love the element of character evolution. Let me say the word, character evolution in stories. It's the most important thing. As a writer and an actor, it's important. If you have no character evolution, then you have no story. It's not moving. It's not evolving. So to see Batman Selina's saying, this city's got no hope, come with me. And he goes, I don't agree with you. And he lets someone who he's attracted to, who he wants to get to know, move on. And Batman decides to stay in Gotham to keep on fighting because now he believes he can help heal Gotham, that Gotham can also heal itself. It's got a brand new mayor who's there for the right reasons, and Bruce and Batman can work with her. And I'm sure we'll see more Bruce Wayne in the Batman sequel as well. So I love the Batman's hopeful finish, as I said before, a hopeful finish that Man of Steel needed as well. The Batman and Catwoman's complex relationship explained by Zoe Kravitz. The Batman star Zoe Kravitz, who plays Selina Kyle, talks about the complex relationship between Catwoman and Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne by Andy, whose surname I still can't pronounce. The Batman star Zoe Kravitz, who plays Selina Kyle, explains the complex relationship between Catwoman and Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. The Caped Crusader has been reimagined once again for the big screen, this time through director Matt Reeves, starring Pattinson as the titular hero. The Batman revolved around Bruce's second year as a crime fighter in Gotham City. While not doing the traditional origin story, Bruce is still years from being the Batman that fans know and love yet. With Batman getting a new cinematic take, so did many of his supporting characters and villains from the greater DC lore. One of them was Catwoman, who plays as an essential role in the Batman. Similar to Pattinson's Bruce, Selina's journey as Catwoman has only just begun, meaning she will grow into her DC counterpart throughout the franchise. Throughout the first installment, the Batman set foundations for Bruce and Selina's dynamic, which is known as one of the more complex relationships in the comics. In The Art of the Batman Companion book, Kravitz, via comic books, spoke about the iteration of Selina, Bruce's relationship, and how the Batman defines their connection. Much like previous incarnations of the two Gotham heroes, their bond is heavily rooted in being a love-hate thing. Despite having similar goals and motives, Kravitz explains that their different viewpoints tend to be what gets them into disputes, stating the following. Cat and mouse is a great way to describe it. I think there's a love-hate thing, and I think the line between love and hate is very thin. There's a really deep soul connection. Even though they see things differently and they come from very different backgrounds, I think they are actually fighting for the same thing. And they're both people who really believe in justice. Their idea of what justice is might be a little bit different, but they're both people who really fight for what they believe in. They aren't afraid to fight. They aren't afraid to die for what they believe in. I also think they're people who have often felt alone, which is how they were able to become the people they are now and acquire the skills that they have. So I think they meet each other and finally meet someone who can match them. It's scary and exciting and sexy all at the same time. I couldn't agree more. The Batmans, Kravitz and Pattinson are two of many actors that have brought Bruce and Selina to life in live action. The iterations come roughly 10 years after The Dark Knight Rises was released, where Christian Bale and Anne Hathaway, which wasn't a great Catwoman by the way, portrayed them. Fox's Batman prequel series Gotham, starring David Mazouz and Cameron Biconova as Bruce and Selina, respectively, before becoming Batman and Catwoman, explored throughout the 5 seasons their complicated dynamic. Whether they are in love or on opposite sides, there will always be so many intriguing angles to tackle with Selina and Bruce. Following the Batman's box office and critical success, sequels are expected to happen, even though Warner Brothers has yet to greenlight the Batman 2. However, Reeves is developing the Penguin as a spin-off series for Colin Farrell's character on HBO Max. As far as Catwoman goes, there may be something for her too. Prior to the Batman being released theatrically, Reeves has stated that there had been talks with HBO Max about doing some type of Catwoman spin-off down the line. While viewers may have to wait to see the story of Bruce and Selina continue, the Batman is just chapter 1 of their story, and the first chapter of a story that's going to run and run. This is not just a trilogy. So I'm going to talk about that a bit in a moment. Right, let's talk about it. What is Matt Reeves planning with this dynamic between Batman and Catwoman? I think he's looking at this like a Clark Kent and Lex Luthor from Smallville, where basically we know that Clark and Lex, Superman and Lex, have a deep hate for each other in the Superman era. Not that Superman hates, but they become mortal enemies. So what Smallville did was build them up as friends, only to make them enemies in the end. It was a great concept. It was one of the biggest main reasons I love that fucking show. Could they be doing the same thing here? Now, we know in some iterations, Catwoman is an all-out villain, and then she's kind of an anti-hero where she does steal things, but she does unite with Bruce. They are lovers, and, she helps him, fight crime. Could it be, because it was revealed in this movie, she's Carmine Falcone's daughter, that she takes charge of his empire, his criminal empire? Maybe she's doing it for the right reasons, right? And Bruce doesn't agree, and this drives them to opposite sides of the mission. I think that could be a very interesting thing to do with the next chapter. We'll have to wait and see. Right now, she's gone to Bloodhaven. She's probably going to come back with Dick Grayson. Maybe they're together. Maybe he's too young for her. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting. The next chapter and these spin-offs have so much potential thanks to what Matt Reeves has done with the Batman vision. Superman Flyby concept art show shows J.J. Abrams' scrap suit and Krypton. 80s rewind to times 90s. I think Matt Reeves' Batman will go beyond 3 films. I agree. New Superman Flyby concept art reveals J.J. Abrams' scrap reboot, including his version of Krypton, the Daily Planet, and Man of Steel suit. Could he be making Superman Flyby with this black version of Superman? Who knows? This is by Grant Hermans of Screen Rant. New Superman Flyby concept art reveals J.J. Abrams' scrap reboot, including its version of Krypton, the Daily Planet, and the Man of Steel suit. Development on the film began as early as 2002, when the future Lost co-creator turned his script draft to Warner Brothers, with an origin story exploring a civil war between Jor-El and his corrupt brother, Kator, that would ultimately lead to Kal-El sent to Earth to fulfill a prophecy, being taken in by Jonathan and Martha Kent and falling in love with Lois Lane at the Daily Planet. Superman Flyby would then see the titular hero forced to face off against Kator, son of Tyzor, and 3 other corrupted Kryptonians on Earth, resulting on his initial death and visiting Jor-El in their race's version of heaven before being resurrected and returning to defeat the group, with the film ending as he flies off to Krypton in the spaceship. This is an idea I had in one of my Superman scripts as well. The Superman goes back to Krypton in the end and it's not destroyed. I actually don't hate the idea of Krypton not being destroyed. The studio would quickly get to work trying to get Superman Flyby off the ground, with Brett Ratner being hired to direct and iconic Superman actor Christopher Reeve being brought on as a project consultant. Wow. To hell with the casting. A variety of actors would be eyed for the lead role, including Josh Hartnett, who was offered $100 million free picture deal, Jude Law, Paul Walker, and Brendan Fraser, though all felt they were unprepared for the scheduling commitment and potential typecasting that would come from playing the DC Comics character. While Superman Flyby would ultimately die in development hell, audiences are getting a glimpse at what almost was. Nearly 20 years after the project was ultimately scrapped, filmmaker Ryan Unicorn took to Twitter to share concept art from J.J. Abrams' Superman Flyby. The images reveal a look at the scrapped franchise reboot, including the potential costume design for the titular Man of Steel and its versions of both Krypton and Metropolis. Check out the concept art below. Wow. So let's see if I can go to the actual... here we go. So here's one of them. So I like this. This looks pretty cool as well. I like the costume design. I like that it's ribbed. That's pretty cool. So that's that. Yeah, I think it's excellent. I think it looks really cool. And something you've noticed, he's wearing the red trunks. So something clearly that JJ and Brett Ratner believed in. So I'm I like it. I think it's amazing. I would love to have seen JJ's concept being done because it's different. That's what I like. I like it. I don't expect any. Listen, the only complaints really from fans about Cavill's Superman is that he doesn't feel like Superman. I think in terms of the films, they're pretty cool. And I think that's the only thing the audience had an issue with. You know, you can't change who Superman is. And that's the most important thing. So here's a picture of Krypton, I think. If you can see it, here's a picture of Krypton. Let me just try and get here closer without falling down. That'll be funny for you, not for me. Yes, I like Krypton here. It looks really, really cool. It looks a bit like a Star Wars planet, but it looks interesting at the very least. So, yeah, it's different. It's very rocky. It's got mountains. Yeah, it's a very different kind of concept for Krypton. And this is another picture of Krypton. This is kind of a bird's eye view. I think that's a river down there, but that's really cool as well. And you can see, you probably can't see it properly. There's these like, hang on, that's not Krypton because I can see helicopters like up above. This is probably Metropolis. And this is the Daily Planet. Wow, I like this. That looks really, really cool. So considering there's all this concept art, obviously they went down a long road with this concept. Wow. There were a variety of factors behind Superman Flyby's eventual demise, beginning with the budgetary concerns as it was looking to exceed 200 million, a large number in and of itself, though when paired with money spent on the previously scrapped Superman Reborn, Nicolas Cage's Superman Lives, and Batman vs. Superman was more of a worry for the studio. The film saw another setback as Ratner dropped out due to frustrations with the frequent delays in trying to cast the film and creative differences. With producer John Peters, yes, John Peters back then was a big problem. A lot of you will know the history about John Peters. Being replaced by MCG in 2003, who eyed Jason Burr, Henry Cavill, Jared Padalecki, oh my God, and Michael Cassidy. Cassidy would have been a great Superman. However, when McG also departed, Abrams tried to throw his hat in the ring to direct, but WB would drop the project altogether. A big tragedy, because I would have loved to have seen it. With Superman Flyby killed by the studio, Man of Steel would instead see his way back to the screen with Bryan Singer's Superman Returns, a pseudo-sequel, excuse me, so where are we? A pseudo-sequel to the Christopher Reeve movies with Brandon Routh taking over the role. The film would receive generally positive reviews from critics, though largely divided audiences and underperformed at the box office, grossing just over 391 million against its reported 223 million production budget. Cancelling plans for a sequel, though, his first effort with the character didn't work out. Abrams is getting another shot at both Superman and DC Comics world, as he's producing both Justice League Dark Universe for HBO Max and a film centered on a black Man of Steel from writer Ta-Nehisi Coates. That is reportedly a reboot set outside of the DC Extended Universe. I'm going to make you a little bet. right, that this black Superman will never happen. This film that JJ's been producing, it will bin Ta-Nehisi Coates. Someone else will write it, probably JJ. JJ will probably have to come in, write and direct this film, and it'll be Henry Cavill starring in the film, not a black Superman. That's my bet. That's my hunch. That's my gut feeling. It's also what I want to happen, but I think things are changing at WB, especially with WB Discovery running things now. I think this is the way we're going to go. Right, there your DCEU updates. So this is the part of the video where I'm going to actually go to something else. An article that's nothing to do with the DCEU. It's about Harry Potter, and I do want to read it because I think it's interesting. And because I don't want to do another live video just to talk about this, because basically we all care about DC and no one's really going to come in for Harry Potter. So I'll do it here. Cursed Child movie would be the best for Harry Potter, says analyst. An analyst describes how a film adaptation of the play Harry Potter and the Cursed Child might be the next best move for the struggling franchise. By Joseph Cumner, interesting name, of Screen Rant. An industry expert describes how the best move for the Harry Potter franchise to take next would be an adaptation of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child for the screen. Written by Jack Thorne from a story penned by J.K. Rowling, Cursed Child is a play that follows the story of Harry's child, Albus Severus, who gets into trouble after messing with a time turner during his time at Hogwarts. Premiering on London's West End in 2016, the play has since seen massive success, with productions in Japan, Australia, and on Broadway. It even broke the record for the all-time highest weekly ticket sales of any play. While on stage, Harry Potter is doing fantastically on screen, it's a different story. Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore had the worst Wizarding World box office opening weekend, despite a slightly better audience reception than the previous film. The Crimes of Grindelwald on its opening weekend, Secrets, is 31% down on its predecessor and is on track to be the only film in the franchise not to cross the 500 million mark globally. The different approach is therefore probably on the cards, and according to Exhibitor relations analyst Jeff Bock, the best move would be to turn the Cursed Child, speaking in the rap book, describes let me say that again. Jeff Bock, the best move would be to turn to the Cursed Child. Speaking in the rap, but Bock describes that while Warner Brothers shouldn't be abandoning the wider Wizarding World cinematic universe that the Fantastic Beasts films are part of, their best bet would be to return to something closer in spirit to the books. He outlines how the films should be focusing on what people like the most about the franchise, which Bock says is Harry. You can read the full quote below. We'll talk about it because I think it's interesting. There's still a lot of directions that Warner could take the Wizarding World in the long term. But right now they need to get back to what people like the most about it. And that's Harry. Whether it's a Cursed Child adaptation or something else, the next project should be something closer to the books that builds an appetite for a spin-off that can really branch out the way the first Fantastic Beasts did. Yeah, I think the first Fantastic Beasts did feel like Harry Potter, didn't it? And the second one, I don't know what the idea from Joe Rowling was, to be honest with you. News on a possible adaptation of The Cursed Child for the screen is thin on the ground, although Chris Columbus, who directed the first two Harry Potter films, has mentioned that he would be keen to direct one. This is not a bad idea, as a film with Columbus at the helm would be emblematic of the return to the spirit of the books. The book mentions it was Columbus' magical direction and close attention to the source material that made Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets such a good foundations for the rest of the series. Perhaps a marriage of those elements with the Harry-focused plot of The Cursed Child could build appetite for spin-offs that Bock says is needed. However, within the Harry Potter fan base, The Cursed Child was incredibly polarizing. Many fans were disappointed with the story and script, likening it to fan fiction, combined with the controversy that already surrounds the franchise, such as J.K. Rowling's misguided antics on social media. And hasten to recasting of Grindelwald, it might be best for the franchise to steer well clear of The Cursed Child. In fact, the controversy might be what dissuaded Daniel Radcliffe from returning to the titular role, as he has said that he wouldn't return even if an adaptation of the play was on the cards. It's not exactly what he said, but he doesn't seem interested in coming back. He has forged a fantastic career for himself in indie movies and in streaming, and he doesn't want to do anything to ruin that. Why would he? So, what is best for Harry Potter now? First of all, as much as I love Fantastic Beasts 1, that's not the spin-off direction they should have gone in. I think it would have made more sense if you're going prequel to go back to the days where, Dumbledore was young and, all these teachers that we saw in the original movies were young, and Harry's parents and maybe Hermione's parents and Ron's parents were all young too, right? And they could have all gone to Hogwarts as kids. That would have been a great prequel story. And I mean, you could even have Tom Riddle there. Maybe that's prior to that. You could do something, though. You could do something very interesting. This was just the wrong way to go about it. So I agree. We need to stick to the thing that everybody loves, and that's Harry Potter. Do I think that he could be persuaded? Do I believe he could be persuaded to play Harry again? Of course he could. Of course he could. Why not? Daniel Radcliffe would play Harry again in certain circumstances, as Emma Watson would play Hermione again. And, everyone would come back to those roles, and it would be great. I never understood why she went away from her central universe when that's the one people fell in love with, both in books and in films. Here's the thing now. Before they do anything, Warner Brothers Discovery must talk to Joe Rowling and say, you must divorce yourself from everything Harry Potter. You've got to look like you've sold everything off to us, and you've got to go away and leave. The consumer has got to see that you have nothing to do with Harry Potter anymore. Now, that's devastating, because if it wasn't for Joe, there wouldn't be a Harry Potter anymore. But what can you do? She keeps on saying this stuff. I'm not going to talk about whether I agree on it or not, because I don't understand half of it. And I think if you don't understand something, you shouldn't comment on it. But the point is, she's not going to stop. So she needs to divorce herself away from Harry Potter live action. Then they can say she has nothing to do with it anymore. We all agreed on that it was the best for the character's future. We bring in a writer, we bring in a director, Chris Columbus or David Yates, who does the Fantastic Beasts films. He's directed them beautifully. There's no issue with David or Chris. And maybe they could work together and alternate the movies. But she has to move away. As long as they don't fuck with what she told them to do with the original Harry Potter movies, I think we can bring that charm back and we can create something special here. But as long as Joe Rowling is involved with Harry Potter, then it's still going to... Critics will review the films badly on purpose because they hate Joe Rowling, right? They hate her stunts. So as long as she's involved and connected, Harry Potter live action isn't going to work. So the first thing they have to do is get rid of her. This has been the DCEU Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. Balconator, are you looking forward to the next generation of upcoming DCEU characters? Well, I am looking forward to them, but I don't want them to have anything to do with the DCEU. The DCEU now is poison to the mainstream audience and many, many diehard comic book fans. The DCEU must be retired, and Blue Beetle and Aqualad and Wonder Twins must be part of a brand new DC live action universe. Now, if Blue Beetle was going to be the first of this brand new live action franchise, that would be very exciting to me. If I was doing a brand new DC live action franchise, I said it last night on Movies TV Mad Live, I would actually do a Justice League movie. What you do, you set up this DC live action universe and world build via Justice League movie. The world is already there. The Justice League is already set up. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all these characters are already part of the Justice League. They exist. The world knows them. And you world build within a Justice League movie, and that's how you set up a new DC live action universe. But I would be very, very happy if these new gen DC characters were part of a brand new DC live action universe. Because there's something that you must understand, and I know that a lot of you are living in denial. The DCEU is not fit for purpose. I've said that multiple times, and I apologize for being boring. It doesn't work as a live action franchise. It doesn't work as a business. And when something doesn't work, when an experiment has failed, you end it. You cut it. You say, that's enough. Let's start again. The DCEU must start again. And if Blue Beetle is the first chapter of the brand new universe, I will be very excited about that. So until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen, and see you tonight in Movies TV Mad Live. Ask me anything. Think about your questions from now. I don't know what I'll be developing by tonight, so I can feed off of. We'll have to wait and see. So until Movies TV Mad Live tonight, I'll see you later. Thanks for the support, everyone, and I'll see you again soon. And don't forget to tap me up over on Twitter. I'm at Movies TV Mad, so please give me a follow. See you later.